Here.
Councilmember Karat. Present. Councilmember Palasari.
Here.
Vice Mayor Weldon.
Here.
And Mayor Linsky.
Here. Thank you. Okay, please stand to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and up next is a brief summary of current events by the mayor, city council, and/or city manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during the summary unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. And council members, do we have anything to report this evening? No? All right, Mr. Douglas.
I do, Mayor. Thank you. So there's three events that I'd like to just make the public aware of. And the first is, I always talk about this one, but it's the Cottonwood Community Awareness Group. The public is invited to attend the next meeting on Tuesday, October 24th. So next Tuesday at 4 p.m. at the Cottonwood Public Library. Topic of this meeting will be presented by Jack Teal, our Director of Community Services, and it's regarding the Parks Master Plan update. Excited about that. We're also going to have Mayor Linsky and Councilmember DeWillis attending as well for any questions and answers at the very end. We look forward to people's attendance there. No registration is required, and some light food and drinks will be provided. The next is the Parks and Recreation Department invites everyone to this year's Trunk or Treat, which is happening Halloween night, 4 to 7 p.m. at the Cottonwood Rec Center. Enjoy a safe night of trick-or-treating. Games, activities, car trunks will be decorated to this year's theme of video games, which is one of my favorite topics. Arcade games, the old arcade games. And art show, and car trunks will be decorated in that theme, and then we look forward to seeing people there. And then the last but not least is Walking on Main Street. It returns to Main Street in Old Town Saturday, November 11th, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m., which also happens to be Veterans Day. The event is free and open to the public. Folks can enjoy a car show, a live music, art show, and wine tasting experience hosted by the Verde Valley Wine Consortium. And for more information, you can visit azwom.com. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we have a couple of proclamations to read. We're going to start with Domestic Violence Awareness Proclamation. So whereas domestic violence is a pattern of coercive control and abusive behaviors in any intimate or familial relationship that are used to gain and maintain power and control over another. And whereas domestic violence can present in many different ways, including emotional abuse, economic abuse, physical abuse, using children, reproduction, coercion, isolation, and sexual abuse. And whereas domestic violence is an issue affecting Arizonans in all communities, regardless of age, race, gender, economic status, religion, nationality, or educational background. And whereas more than 12 million women and men are victims of rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner in the United States every year, averaging 24 people per minute. And whereas 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men have experienced contact sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner during their lifetime. And whereas 30% of children exposed to intimate partner violence had their first exposure before the age of 2, and an additional 26% had their first exposure between the ages of 2 and 7. And whereas victims of domestic violence are more likely to experience long-term mental and physical health concerns, including a higher risk of chronic disease, substance abuse, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, and risky behaviors. And whereas promoting healthy, respectful, and nonviolent relationships can help reduce the occurrence of intimate partner violence, support survivors, and lessen short and long-term harm on individuals, families, and communities. And whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an important opportunity to enhance education, prevention, and intervention efforts around domestic violence and support organizations and individuals who provide advocacy efforts, services, and assistance to victims. Now, therefore, I, Tim Linsky, the mayor of the city of Cottonwood, Arizona, on behalf of all of the city council, do hereby proclaim October 2023 Domestic Violence Awareness Month and call upon all citizens, parents, governmental agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, hospitals, schools, and colleges in the city of Cottonwood to support domestic violence survivors and take a stand against all forms of violence and abuse in relationships. And we do have somebody here who is a member of our community and a great organization, the Sanctuary, to receive this proclamation. And you're welcome to say a few words if you'd like to, Jesse. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and councilors. Jesse Johnson, I'm the Executive Director of Verde Valley Sanctuary. We provide services to survivors of sexual and domestic violence across the Verde Valley, but our home base is here in Cottonwood. For far too long, domestic violence has been considered a family issue and has been left for families to address. And while significant progress has been made in reducing domestic violence and improving services and support for survivors, much work remains to be done to expand prevention efforts and provide greater access to safety and healing. Verde Valley Sanctuary began 30 years ago, and our mission is to provide safety, services, and comfort to survivors of domestic and sexual violence. In fiscal year 22-23, we provided more than 5,300 services to over 1,200 survivors of domestic and sexual violence, and 140 prevention education presentations to over 1,000 youth in the Verde Valley. There is still much work to do, and it takes all of us to do it. We must rededicate ourselves to creating a society where domestic violence is not tolerated, where survivors are supported, and where all people have an opportunity to thrive without fear of violence or abuse. So on behalf of Verde Valley Sanctuary, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and councilors for proclaiming October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Great. Thank you. And thanks to your board members for doing such a great job in our community. We appreciate it. Okay. Would you like me to come forward and present this with you? We could take a photo as well. Would you like?
I don't have a camera on me, but if you would like one, I'm happy to do that.
We have professional photographers here.
Oh, well, great. Then I won't pass up the opportunity.
Council, would you care to join me?
I'll just stand for this.
Oh, Ms. Johnson, I gave you the wrong proclamation.
What's this for?
Okay. All right. Next, proclaiming Cities and Towns Week 2023. So whereas the citizens of Cottonwood rely on the city of Cottonwood to experience a high quality of life in our community, and whereas cities and towns in Arizona work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to deliver vital city services such as water and sewer utilities, fire, police, and emergency medical response to ensure safe communities, and whereas cities and towns in Arizona also provide services and programs that enhance the quality of life for residents, such as parks, utilities, street maintenance, libraries, community centers, and recreational programs. And whereas it is important for Cottonwood to continue to provide the excellent delivery of services and programs that our citizens have come to expect in our community, and whereas it is one of the responsibilities of Cottonwood officials to ensure open and accessible government through frequent communication with citizens using various avenues and means. And whereas through participation and cooperation, citizens, community leaders, local businesses, and municipal staff can work together to ensure that services provided by the city of Cottonwood can remain exceptional elements of the quality of life in our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the city of Cottonwood joins with the League of Arizona Cities and Towns and fellow municipalities across the state of Arizona in declaring October 15th to 21st, 2023 as Arizona Cities and Towns Week. And Mr. Douglas will present this one to you. Would you like to step forward and get a picture? Okay, great. Let's do that.
Oh, now it's working just fine.
Okay. Moving on, we're going to move on to a couple presentations. First up is a presentation from LISA, Inc., and LISA stands for Low Income Student Aid, and I believe we have Mr. Eric Wiles this evening. No? I'm so sorry. Kelsey Lyons? Great. Welcome. Come on up. Thank you for being here. You can introduce your board members if you'd like.
We need the support.
Oh. I'm falling down on the television. I'm fine.
Let's let him get there.
Perfect. All right.
You might have to turn it on, the little clicker on the side.
I think we're on.
There you go.
Perfect. Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, and Cottonwood community members. My name is Kelsey Lyons, and I am the Low Income Student Aid, also known as LISA, President, since its inception in 2017. I'm also a Verde Valley resident. I'm an Oak Creek School alumni, former Oak Creek School teacher. I'm an Oak Creek School parent of 3. I am a Mingus Union High School alumni and a current Mingus Union High School teacher. I am here this evening with my fellow board to introduce LISA to you and to thank you for our recent grant from the Cottonwood City Council. I want you guys to think back to middle school. Oh, may I approach and show you some artifacts
Certainly.
while I'm speaking? Okay.
We'll need you to speak into the mic, so just if you could just pass that out, we'll pass it along.
I was going to say, is it?
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. These are just little thank you cards from our students. They're fun to look at. Okay, we'll see about talking in a little bit. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Okay. I want you to think back to middle school. Imagine your middle school self and having to walk to school in the winter without so much as a sweatshirt. Or imagine the paralyzing fear of a classmate commenting that you're wearing the same clothes you wore yesterday. Or perhaps the disappointment of not being able to participate in PE because you didn't have closed-toed shoes that fit. All of these situations were real examples I experienced with my middle school students. The pain and the fear that I felt for them was crippling. These situations are not uncommon, and they're only a few of the reasons that 9 individuals came together to form LISA in 2017. More than half of Dr. Daniel Bright, Cottonwood Community School, and Oak Creek students come from poverty homes. Our goal is to provide aid to lessen the deficiencies that affect students' ability to feel safe, happy, and equal to their peers. While there's so much we can't control about their lives, we can provide them with supplies and opportunities that they might not otherwise receive. In fiscal year 2023, we provided $56,772 worth of aid to low-income students, which accounted for approximately 3,500 individual aid requests, ranging from food, clothing, shoes, school supplies, educational field trip fees, extracurricular fees, medical expenses, summer camps, and a whole lot more. Notice LISA's operating cost was only $372 for the year. That was less than 1% of our total budget. In 2022, we were able to expand our reach and provide aid to Oak Creek students attending Mingus Union High School. And with the help of the recent grant from the Cottonwood City Council, we were able to expand to 2 more Cottonwood schools this school year and increase our reach to hundreds more students. We are already busy at work spending these grant dollars at CCS and DDB. Here is a list of the aid provided, including funding for field trips, bedding, clothing, and classroom supplies. As mentioned before, more than half of all students come from poverty homes. Here are the numbers at each campus that we serve. CCS with an astounding 82%, DDB with 76%, and OCS, Oak Creek, with 68%. LISA is unique in the fact that we're able to provide aid to the student directly in a timely manner. Whereas most school funding benefits the teacher or the class as a whole, we're able to provide aid to individuals. Student aid is defined as aid that impacts the student individually to fill a need so that our students are ready and able to learn. We have been able to provide a variety of aid to students over the years, but most notable are clothing, shoes, food, those extracurricular fees, medical care costs. We have created a process that allows anyone that knows the student to advocate for the child and submit an aid request. So it can be a staff member, a teacher, it could be a family member, a parent, or even just a community member. We provide aid to students with the utmost discretion. Uh-oh. This always happens to me. It's not working now. Uh-oh. She'll bring it back up. By providing aid to low-income students, we're able to assist classrooms as a byproduct, providing instructional materials, classroom supplies, such as lap desk, intervention programs, and more. Hold on. Uh-oh.
It's
Okay.
just that kind of evening.
It's I was gonna say, I'm technology broken.
Oh, okay, all right, don't touch it.
Yeah, down to assisting classrooms, number 6.
Okay, we'll just do this.
Perfect. All right, go ahead and go to the next one. And one more. Okay, 90% of our students that attend after-school clubs at our 3 campuses are low-income students. We have provided aid to these clubs in terms of supplies and equipment, such as the archery equipment that you see, cooking, sewing, gardening, just to name a few, as pictured above. These clubs provide a safe after-school option for students whose parents are still working. All students deserve to feel equal to their peers. One of the driving forces behind the creation of LISA is inclusion. It'll show up. We provide aid to students that allow our low-income students to participate in Snack Shack, Halloween Carnival, different activities that we have that they wouldn't otherwise be able to participate in. Last year, every Oak Creek student received a Scholastic book from our Scholastic Book Fair due to LISA's efforts. The joy that these students had, I wish the picture would pop up, but the smiles, it's just really undescribable. I think many of them had never had a brand new book that they could call their own and take home. That's perfect. That's great. How are we funded? In LISA's infancy, most of our funding came from our generous community members and business donors through tax credit dollars and charitable donations. Excuse me. We've been blessed to receive various grants, as well as funding from fundraisers and other company partnerships such as Fry's and Amazon. Excuse me. I'm just just a hot mess today. I'm sorry.
She's not sick.
I'm not, I know.
She was sick 2 weeks ago.
I have this lingering cough. Okay, Lisa was named the 2023 Nonprofit of the Year from Arizona Community Foundation of Sedona Verde Valley. We were also named one of the 2023 Shining Stars from ACF of Yavapai County. And our very own secretary, she's not here with us this evening, but she was named the 2023 ACF Volunteer of the Year. Thank you for your love and your support of Lisa. Thank you for awarding Lisa the Cottonwood City Council grant recently. This has been very helpful in our expansion efforts to the Cottonwood schools. And our real heroes are the students that continue to show up every day and do great things. I would like our Lisa board members and advisors to introduce themselves, and then we'll entertain any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Lyons.
My name is Lindsay Ludden. I am the vice president of LISA, and I'm also a teacher. I teach at Oak Creek School. I'm the agriculture teacher over there, so I teach kindergarten through 8th grade.
Great.
I'm Mary Valenzuela, and I'm one of the founders with Eric Wiles, and I'm also a school board member of the Cottonwood Oak Creek School Board, and I've been here forever, I think.
My name's Eric Wiles, and I just feel very privileged to be able to help with a group like Lisa. You know, it's amazing when you start asking the question to see how much the need really is out there. So it's been a blessing to be able to work with such outstanding board members. And the last thing I want to say is we're a group of 20 strong now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
John Alvey, longtime resident of Cornville and also a business owner here in Cottonwood for several decades. Eric approached me back in 2017. I know he can even remember the day, probably the hour when he called me. And it's very humbling to be a part of this and watch how it grows, and it just keeps growing, and it's neat to see what all this has done for these kids, especially with the poverty level. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm Steve King. I'm the superintendent of the Cottonwood Oak Creek School District, and I get to represent the children and the recipients of all these wonderful things up close and firsthand, and all those things that Kelsey said are absolutely true. It does amazing work for our kids and for our community. I'm very, very grateful to everything that you've done for us, so thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. I think we have some questions from council, so Ms. Lyons or whomever, if you wouldn't mind just sticking around for a second.
You mentioned grants. How much of that $56,772 was grants and how much was private donations?
That's a great question. I'm going to divert to our treasurer, Mr. Wiles. Do we have that number with us this evening?
I've got some information. On the contributed income, we had $4,000 and some change donated by community members. Corporate and foundation grants, there's a difference. A corporate grant is different from a foundation. We got $40,266. This is all for last year, you guys. And grants from other nonprofits was $12,500 to equal the $56,766.76 that we raised last year. Mm-hmm. Does that answer your question, sir?
That answers my question. I got another one.
Okay.
You said anybody can advocate for these kids, teachers, administrators, so on and so forth. Are the parents notified that these issues were brought up, and are they asked if they can afford it, or is it if somebody says something, they just get it bought for them?
Yeah, so there's an aid request form that the person requesting the funding has to fill out. We do have a paper form and an electronic form, but first and foremost, we reach out to the school. Luckily, our board members, Miss Ludden, she will, she knows the family. She works with all the students K through 8, so she'll make that contact. We don't ask questions regarding income. We do ask, is this need a real need? And if so, how can we help? So there is a communication with the families at that point.
That's all I got.
Any other questions from council?
One quick one. What's your biggest need, do you think?
Off the top of my head, I would say clothes, but I know we have an amazing data sheet, so I want to revert to Eric.
You know, we spent...
Mr. Wiles, could we get you to step up to the mic, please? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. And we spent $3,650 on clothes last year. Another high note was due to, I hate this term, but the working poor. I hate the term, you guys. But we paid $5,940 in overdue medical bills for those folks that weren't covered. So we covered the medical stuff as well, because that's important. In my opinion, it's important to have a huge list of what we've provided, because that helps these children be ready to learn when they get to school, you guys. So I appreciate that question. And if you want more specifics on lunches, overdue lunches, we paid $604 for overdue lunches. We don't want kids to get alternative lunches. They don't do that anymore at Cottonwood Oak Creek. That used to happen, but it won't happen anymore. So we appreciate those questions. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions from council? Just want to say thank you so much for coming in and presenting. We had not given any community grants to your organization before. We're really pleased that you applied. We look forward to seeing your application again next year, and thanks to you all for what you do for our students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
I have one additional. I'm going to go ahead and make a $250 donation to you guys.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for tolerating my cough.
No worries. No worries. Thank you. Okay, our next presentation is the City of Cottonwood Strategic Plan Update. This is a housing update. Or no, excuse me. First, the Strategic Plan Update.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Ryan Bigelow. I am your Interim Director of Strategic Initiatives. I've been on the job for a little more than 3 weeks now, so we're getting hard to work here. My primary responsibility, at least is the way I see it right now, is we have 165 initiatives here. It's a big job, and I'm responsible for making sure our departments are working towards these initiatives and also working together towards these initiatives. So making sure that we have a good baseline right now. I've talked to every department, if not every department, nearly every department right now, to get their baseline of what their initiatives are and what they're doing towards them. And then as we move forward, I hope this presentation, you'll be seeing it quarterly, will evolve into something that I envision as a little more measurable. Something that we can come up with some more data for you, have a little bit more statistics to back up some of these things. But right now we've gathered some baseline. So today I want to share with you some high-level initiatives. I'm not going to go through all 165, but we'll go through some high-level stuff. We'll also go through a couple of items that aren't necessarily directly tied towards initiatives, but do fall underneath your strategic plan and your 5 strategic directives. So that's what we'll be looking at today.
Great.
So a reminder, we adopted the City of Cottonwood Strategic Plan in May 9th of 2023. Your 5 directives, these are your big picture items, are building quality of life through sustainable growth and development, lead with environmental stewardship, prioritize our infrastructure, furthering financial accountability and transparency, and initiate and maintain opportunities for collaboration, education, communication, and legislative advocacy, which all total up to the 165 initiatives. And you can find this at our website, cottonwoodaz.gov. So, number 1, building quality of life through sustainable growth and development. Your key priorities here are economic development, workforce development, housing, airport, tourism, citizen engagement, parks and trails, events, police and fire, and recreation opportunities. I'm going to highlight 3 here. 1.2.7, conduct an annual needs assessment survey of local businesses and create action plan based off of the results. So you're going to hear more about this soon, but Tricia Lewis is hard at work working with Elliot Pollock. If that name sounds familiar, they did the housing study. But she's going to use them for a SWOT analysis, some stakeholder engagement, and needs assessment for an economic development strategy. So not only is she going to cover this, she's going to do more. Expectations are high. 1.6.8, dedicate adequate resources to create a plan for the city's general plan, and Mr. Gary Davis is hard at work at that. I think he talked to the Planning and Zoning Commission just last night. He's collected 500 survey responses from the community. He did 8 public meetings and had 12 stakeholder meetings too for all the outreach for the general plan. There's a timeline for that now. You'll be seeing that hopefully in the spring and get that to the voters in November. 1.7.3, collaborate with local partners to help increase and expand the special events options within our community. A good example of that is the Verde Valley Wine Festival. We had the Verde Valley Wine Festival fund the event, and then the city of Cottonwood help coordinate and staff the event. Items that are not directly tied to strategic initiatives here. The Cottonwood Police Department hosted their annual National Night Out. The fire department hosted a 9/11 memorial walk, and they had their annual open house. We are working on the creation of a regional housing nonprofit developer. And obviously we hosted the annual Thunder Valley Rally, but this also included a partnership with the American Legion to raise funds for youth athletics. And we just heard about all the needs here in our community, so that was a nice collaboration. Number 2 is lead with environmental stewardship. We have water, wastewater. The key priorities are water, wastewater, stormwater, stewardship of local natural resources, and management of open spaces. 2.4.3, partner with the Nature Conservancy to create and implement a stormwater management plan at the Cottonwood Public Library. Phase 1 of that plan has been completed, actually. There's new landscaping out at the Cottonwood Public Library and retention basins. There are plans up to phase 5, and we've applied for a grant to, cross our fingers, hopefully get the rest of that landscaping done and stormwater retention. 2.4.5 is implement a program to monitor the condition and enforce maintenance, commercial developments, drainage, detention infrastructure. Public Works is hard at work on this one. They have now implemented a 2Inform software, so that includes annual inspections from city staff, and then they will put it into a database that we can easily manage and be on top of where our stormwater is and where the issues are occurring. So really excited about that program. Well, Public Works is really excited about that program. I'm not sure I'm that excited about it. Some of the other projects and programs, staff attended the Friends of the Verde River Watershed Report Card Workshop, so we will be learning more from them about their 2025 report card. Staff and the mayor attended the Verde Front Strategic Planning Workshop, and the Verde Front looks at things with the Verde River and how we can collaborate more collectively regionally with that. We are working with Local First Arizona to research and submit grants and are currently participating in their Green Business Boot Camp. We have recently hired management analyst Heather Rowe, and the reason she wasn't introduced tonight is because she's at boot camp. So we are excited to see the results of that boot camp, including help with this strategic plan and how to manage it and also how to formulate some data out of it. So I'm actually excited about that one. And then we also met with, staff has met with the UVX and Base Road community members to further discuss some of the issues with their stormwater and solutions to that down the road. Number 3, prioritize our infrastructure. Key priorities here are streets and sidewalks, traffic circulation, public transportation, wastewater treatment, and city facilities. So 3.2.1 is establish a marketing initiatives for CATS, Verde Shuttle, and Airport. Highlight what a resource it is. And again, Miss Tricia Lewis helped out with some bus passes and got that into the newspapers and into the local media to really help push some ridership, and that's very much been very helpful. So good job on that with that one, Tricia. 3.2.3, a transit study update to include outcome of services being provided where efficiency changes can be made, and to include microtransit. So the RFP is out on this one, and to create a transit development plan and ridership survey study from ADOT. So this should be grant funded. This is another exciting initiative from the transit. And then 3.3.1 is initiate and complete all upgrades and enhancements to the Mingus wastewater treatment plant. We know that's a big priority at this point, and the construction manager at risk has been selected, and we're moving forward with those projects. For the additional projects and programs here, we have obviously you've been receiving your briefings on the status of the Cottonwood Municipal Center. Council Chambers is being relocated to Old Town, the Riverfront Wastewater Facility, so we're working hard on that. Interim Chief Dowell is now a board member for the Verde Valley Humane Society, which might not seem like much, but it's significant because it's actually a city-owned building, so we have more oversight of what's happening there. And the Monte Tesoro Sidewalk Project has received several bids, and construction on that is hopefully by January. We're going to start on the Monte Tesoro Sidewalk Project. Number 4, furthering financial accountability and transparency. Our key priorities here are budget, finance, physical resources, and employees. 4.1.3 is create a grant and financial tracking and accounting policy. Ms. Kirsten Lennon is hard at work at that. Our department now, that we're going to be involved in grants, we're actually taking a look at that as well and helping implement that into the financial operations guide. So you will actually have to approve that one at some point, and hopefully be seeing that soon. Conduct a compensation study to ensure employees are appropriately placed at the city's pay structure according to the job market, and that was completed right at the beginning of this budget year. And then 4.3.3, acquire new agenda software for the city clerk's office. We have the software, we're working out the kinks in it right now, and I know all staff is excited about this one. There's not a staff member who won't benefit from this happening, particularly Tammy. And additional projects and programs here. Excited that the executive team attended our first full-day workshop that focused on team development. We are re-implementing or reconvening the recognition and appreciation team. So for staff morale, and there'll be an event, I believe, in December is the plan. And then, of course, there's been big changes in the organizational structure. So you're having interim positions at this point, community service director, public works and transportation director, my position, so we're restructuring and reorganizing. And of course, all the employees attended a discrimination awareness training too. And last but not least, number 5 in the mouthful, initiate and maintain opportunities for collaboration, education, communication, and legislative advocacy. The key priorities here are regional collaboration, legislative advocacy, awareness and education, and citizen outreach. 5.1.1 is to strengthen and expand our role in GAMA, and that's the Greater Arizona Mayors Association. So I know Mayor Linsky is the president and been attending, and those meetings have picked back up. I think they stalled out kind of during COVID, and they're back on track. So that's a focus on rural community partnerships. 5.1.14, explore adding partners to our regional communications center. I know that Clarkdale and Jerome have already been added, and there's further discussion on adding additional communities to that center. And 5.2.3, encourage council member participation in one of the 5 state legislative policy committees. And this is something that we will do usually at the January work session, make assignments for everybody, and everybody gets to select which of those 5 policy committees they'd like to attend or be involved with. And the additional projects and programs here, I know that staff and council have been with ongoing discussions with healthcare, with local health organizations, including NIH and Dignity Health. Cottonwood now has a sister city in Mazatlan, Mexico. Staff in the Cottonwood Youth Commission attended the League of Arizona Cities and Towns Conference. The city manager attended the 2023 Arizona Rural Policy Forum. And of course, as we just heard, the Cottonwood Community Awareness Group is meeting monthly at the Cottonwood Public Library. And those Since the city manager has come aboard, those have changed a little bit in format and have been more pointed towards a specific topic, which I think has been beneficial in giving a little bit more structure to what those look like. So that concludes my presentation and update. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Bigelow? I just want to say I really look forward to the quarterly updates. I think is really helpful for keeping everybody, kind of on track and making sure we keep track of progress, that we're heading in the right direction, which it looks like we are.
Yeah, and I have to nag a little bit, but I'm going to be pretty good at that, I think.
That's great. Nag away.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, next presentation is our housing update. Ms. Shannon Boone is here for this.
Sorry, my computer went to sleep.
That's all right. It is just a night of technical difficulties.
Okay. Good evening, Mr.
Good evening.
Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, and councilors. I'm Shannon Boone, your housing manager, and I'm here tonight with sort of a two-part presentation for you. So the first part is sort of an overview of housing affordability in Cottonwood, and the second part deals with how we create affordable housing. And I apologize to those of you who have seen some of these before because I have done this presentation a few times, the first few slides, but I know it's new for some of you. So first, just kind of starting out with the definitions so we're all on the same page. Affordable housing is just housing that costs no more than 30% of a household's total income. So it doesn't really define the housing, it's more about the household. And affordable housing isn't just for some people or certain income levels, it's actually a goal for everyone in the community. The next one there, subsidized housing. Housing that's built, acquired, or sustained with government funding. A lot of times subsidized sounds bad, it gets a bad rap, but one thing that a lot of people don't think about is that the biggest housing subsidy in the US is the home ownership interest tax deduction. So by far, that is the most money that we put into housing in this country. So a lot of us live in subsidized housing and don't even realize it. The next one there, low-income housing. Typically, that's housing affordable to households who are earning less than 80% of the area median income, and we'll get into median income in a little bit here. Workforce housing is for households who earn more than 80% of the median income, but not enough to afford the market rate. So a lot of times that's 80% to 120% of median income, but here right now we're pushing more like 170% of median income where our market starts. The final one there, the Section 8, it's also called Housing Choice. It's a voucher program which is operated by the state of Arizona for Yavapai County. It can be used on any property if the landlord accepts the voucher. So on this slide, we'll kind of look at the spread of Cottonwood household incomes. And if you all kind of start up at 12 o'clock and go around the pie here, that pie represents all of the households in the city of Cottonwood. So the red section there represents about 2,021 households who earn less than $25,000 a year. And that's annual household income, not individual income. And then you can see the different categories there as you go on around the circle. But about halfway, if you cut the pie in half, we have the median income. Median, obviously, just kind of the halfway point. Half the houses in the city earn less than $39,437 for total household income, and half earn more than that. And just for some comparison here, I have the area median incomes of some other areas. So you can see Cottonwood there at $39,437. Camp Verde and Payson for comparison of some similar sized towns. The Yavapai County overall median income at $56,170. Phoenix still higher, Arizona further than that, and then the U.S. median income at $69,021. So here I have kind of that same pie, but instead of household incomes, this reflects 30% of monthly household income, or the affordable rent for each income bracket in the pie. So this isn't what households pay, but the maximum affordable based on the definition. And when we think about home prices and rents in the area, we know that monthly payments start at about $1,875. So if you look, do I have a pointer? Which one's it? Let's try. Yeah, okay. So if you look, 1875 starts here in the light green. The colors are different in here. The households in this section of the pie are really the only ones who can afford the rents and house payments that we're seeing today. So that's about 20% of the population. So recalling back to those definitions, when we talked about 80% of the median income is kind of that definition for low income. 80% falls, the 50% is here straight up and down, 80% falls about here. So we're looking at almost 3,000 or 2,500 households who sort of fall into that definition of needing low income housing. And then we know that our market rate housing starts at about the light green area at 1875, so that's another 2,500 households whose affordable payments kind of fall in that category we call workforce housing. So in all, about 5,000 of our 6,321 households could not actually afford comfortably to buy or rent a market rate home today without assistance. So that's all well and good, you say, but all those households, all those people are already housed, so what's wrong? Well, the challenge is the housing cost burden. So HUD defines a cost burden as households who pay more than 30% of their income for housing and therefore may have difficulty affording necessities such as food, clothing, transportation, and medical care. Severe rent burden is defined as paying more than 50% of the household's income for rent or housing. This chart is actually from the housing study, which was based on 2019 data then available. So it's a little bit older data, but it does reflect the depth of the housing cost burden faced by residents. And we can look at that and compare it. I've added the last column there to the housing cost burden in the US today. So if you kind of follow these green rows, the percent of residents that are cost burdened because they pay more than 30%. And then beyond that, those who are paying more than 50%. So the total there, what did I say? It was around 59% of households are cost burdened in Cottonwood, almost 60%. And in the US, 30, 45, about 47%. So with all of that, it's safe to say that more of our population is cost burdened or burdened by the high cost of housing than not. And the cost of housing is more burdensome here than in the US as a whole. At the same time, we see a lot of growth in our community because jobs are plentiful and attract lots of young working people. Although they're not necessarily high-paying jobs, we do have a lot of retail and tourism jobs. Retirees are attracted to the beauty of the area, as well as remote workers. And because people are coming faster than we're leaving, we see growth. So this is another chart from the housing study, which showed the demand in 2020 for affordable housing added a growth factor for forecasted growth over 5 years, and then the total demand. So the really important number here is this 3739. That's the total housing need for the Verde Valley by 2026.
Those are housing units?
Housing units, yes. So if you think about right now, we have about 29,000 households in the Verde Valley. And looking at adding 3,739, we're talking about increasing the housing stock by about 12% to meet the needs for growth and affordability. And when we talk about the housing stock, we aren't just talking about single-family homes or about apartments, but about a whole continuum of housing to meet everyone's needs, from homelessness, here on the left, all the way up to sort of market rate home ownership. And I'll kind of explain these in twos. Homelessness and emergency shelter are both basically no-cost options for the occupant. Supportive housing and transitional housing are typically income-based, so the folks who occupy the housing would pay 30% of their income no matter what it is. Affordable rental and affordable home ownership, typically income restricted, so the households who qualify for the rates that are charged in that housing are limited to certain incomes. And then the market rental and market home ownership. Just for some clarification for those who don't know, supportive housing typically is a strategy that combines affordable housing with intensive coordinative services to help people struggling with physical and mental health issues to ensure that they can maintain stable housing incorporated with the care that's needed. So a lot of times, especially for folks suffering from mental health challenges, it's very difficult for them just to organize their housing needs. So supportive housing kind of falls in that category. A lot of times senior housing will also fall in the supportive housing category because of the healthcare needs that are exceptional. So on this one, kind of the same chart, but just looking at our housing needs across the continuum. And while I usually focus kind of on the right-hand side here, the affordable rental and home ownership and market rate, our local nonprofits really help with the left-hand side of the chart. So emergency shelter, you're all familiar with the Verde Valley Homeless Coalition, I believe, and they address those needs. Supportive housing, the Verde Valley Sanctuary and Steps to Recovery are two good examples of nonprofits that I've worked with, trying to establish housing that fits the needs of their communities or their clients. And then transitional housing, we do have two projects in progress right now. Housing Solutions of Northern Arizona is working on a hotel conversion, so they'll have 24 units of transitional housing there. And the Verde Valley Homeless Coalition is working on, I believe, 4 units in their new building just around the corner here. And then in the affordable rental category, we have the Verde Plaza rehab, which is going on now, and renovation, adding 18 new units. And affordable home ownership, the only people working on that right now in the Verde Valley is Habitat for Humanity. They have 1 unit currently being constructed. They typically construct about 1 unit at a time, working their way up to 3 units per year right now. And then we have our market rental and home ownership. In market rate rental, we have 477 units approved, so they've been through design review, essentially. 192 of those are being constructed. That's all inspiration. The others are not currently under construction. So with interest rates going up and some of the other challenges, a lot of projects that we saw permitted up until now even are not starting because they have some financing challenges right now. And then the market home ownership, again, 807 units approved, but 88 being constructed. So the trouble right now is that no one's really producing affordable housing for those who earn more than 60% of the median income, but less than about 200%. So the affordable rental category here, Verde Plaza is a low-income housing tax credit project, which means that it only serves households up to 60% of the median income. So we don't have really anything in the affordable rental category being built to serve the majority of the households, which are over 60%, but under almost 200% right now. So the key to that is that we'll probably need to find other subsidies and funding sources that support the development of rental housing for those households who earn between $25,000 and $80,000 a year. So how do we create affordable housing? One way you may have heard me mention is the DIGA, Development Incentives and Guidelines for Affordable Housing. That's a policy that we're working to bring to you that could help meet the objective of 4B in the general plan, which is here, which would incentivize the development of units that are affordable to households with low and moderate incomes. Potential affordable housing incentives include the modification of development standards and fees for developments in which a specified proportion of affordable units is guaranteed through a development agreement or a land use restriction agreement. So the hope is to publish a written policy that describes the available incentives and ensures the zoning ordinance allows for implementation of those incentives. So one of the things that community development is working on right now is going through some other similar policies in the state, some of the recommendations for that policy, and figuring out which ones sort of go in the zoning code and which ones are kind of a standalone policy, and then what the procedures would be for allowing those in each case. So another thing that policy could include is development incentives, which would be loans to the development with terms designed to meet the project's needs in exchange for the commitment of affordable rents.
Can I ask you a quick question on that?
Yes.
Would that be subsidy? You're talking about subsidy on that case?
If it was loans to the development, yes. So another strategy that we could employ is an affordable housing trust fund. We sort of tried to get that started this year. The trust fund could support projects which, because of the lower rents that they generate compared to market rate projects, they aren't able to secure as much financing. So a lot of times lenders would look at affordable housing project. They base their lending often on the revenues the project can generate. So if it's generating less revenue, the developer gets a smaller loan and has a bigger gap to develop the project. We could also enable a quick acquisition of critical sites or units in order to retain affordability, or allow nonprofit partners time to acquire financing and grants to purchase. So just an example, there was an apartment building that came on the market. There were 8 units in it. Folks were paying between $775 and $1,000 a month for rent. We know when that goes on the market, the new buyer is not going to keep those rents the same. So one strategy could be to acquire those properties and keep the rents the same. And ideally, one of the nonprofit partners, like I mentioned in the housing continuum, could take those over. Additionally, that is one of the reasons for working regionally to start a nonprofit housing organization so that they could get some of those affordable units and manage those as well. An affordable housing trust fund could be established through a dedicated funding source. They typically are, or an annual allocation from the general fund. City housing trust funds, on average, leverage $4.89 for every dollar invested. So the investment from the city is often critical in spurring or allowing other funding sources. So in exchange for any of these funds, projects commit to strict long-term affordability requirements, and selected tenants must meet income qualifications. So just one example here, we have the Verde Plaza. You may recall that we were awarded, or the project was awarded, low-income housing tax credits in 2022. Tax credits are a very competitive funding source with an annual application round. It's super expensive for the developers to apply. They do make the project more expensive, but they also make it possible because low-income housing tax credits serve households earning less than 60% of the median income. So they don't generally generate a lot of revenue to keep the project going, and most of the money needs to go in upfront in the development. So Verde Plaza, I have a picture there of what it looked like this morning. They have broken ground and started creating the pads for the 2 new buildings, which will be 18 new units. And they're working on, it looked like 2 of the buildings were totally empty, so maybe they've moved some people around to rehab the other 26 units that were previously uninhabitable. So you can see the list of funding sources there. It takes a lot to put one of these projects together. The tax credits are never quite enough, and so there are other grants and loans that come into the project, and that City of Cottonwood loan to the project was critical in making it happen. One of the scoring criteria for low-income housing tax credits is the city's participation. And then finally, in the end, the developer fee is usually charged up front to projects in affordable housing, and the developer deferred $250,000 of his fee to take later on, assuming the project generates some revenue in the future. So creating affordable housing isn't as simple as market rate projects, where it's usually the bank loan and the developer's money, and that's it. So another strategy to talk about is using city-owned land. So in exchange for the guarantee of affordable units for several years, city-owned land can be leased to a developer long-term, providing tax benefits to the project and reducing the upfront costs for the project. The city typically retains ownership of the land in that scenario and gets the improvements back with the land at the end of the lease, although frequently those leases have optional renewal terms and other terms that can keep it as affordable housing in perpetuity. There is also the option of selling land to the developer if the terms meet the financial needs of the project, but typically in affordable housing, the developer and the city both prefer that the city retains ownership of the land. And then one of the last strategies I want to talk about is ADUs, or accessory dwelling units. There's just a little graphic there that I downloaded about big houses versus small houses, and this is kind of one of my pet peeves because I live in 500 square feet, and my mom grew up in a house that was 900 square feet with 3 brothers and sisters. So I often wonder when I'm talking to builders why they have to build 2,000 square foot houses for everyone. They'll say the numbers don't work. And that's pretty much the answer for why we don't have any affordable housing. But we are looking into different ways to get smaller units. So accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, can provide needed housing, can help homeowners generate rental income in the process. They cost less to build because the land is already owned. They provide a comfortable place for seniors with the support of family, and they allow homeowners to have live-in help. Cottonwood currently allows guest houses in select zoning districts and lot sizes. So a guest house typically differs from an ADU in that it may not be rented. It's really designed just for the use of the family in the main house and their guests. Phoenix recently implemented an ADU ordinance, eliminating their guest house regulations and allowing 1 ADU per single family detached home in all residential zoning districts. Now that's Phoenix. Not saying we have to do that. We could consider following suit, but with limitations to where ADUs are allowed, similar to the guest house allowance, but possibly removing that requirement that they only be used by the household, so allowing them to be rented. One interesting thing, because I think most of you are probably familiar with the short-term rental legislation that prevents us from regulating short-term rentals. The way Phoenix implemented this, the provision says the primary dwelling unit can't be restricted, but the ADU is prohibited from being a short-term rental. So we'll see where that goes, if they get any challenges to that. But the really interesting thing about that one, just yesterday, HUD announced some new policy. So they allowed for the inclusion of rental income from an ADU in the borrower's qualifying income. So that would allow more borrowers to qualify for FHA financing for properties with ADUs. It would allow people to qualify more easily for housing if there was that extra unit, because they can count that income. And that also includes using 203K rehabilitation mortgages to add an ADU. So once this legislation passes and the lenders get it all worked out, there would be a way for folks to finance those additional units more easily.
So, Ms. Boone, when did Phoenix adopt that ordinance? Was it recent, like somewhat?
Recently,
Very
yes.
recently, okay.
A month ago,
Okay.
maybe? Very recent, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we'll just wait to see if the big boys challenge
If they
them?
get any challenges,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, that was bleak.
I'm sorry.
No, good, I mean, it's great to follow up with the study that was done, that was complete. I mean, we know these things anecdotally. It's really good to see them in real time, in graphs and figures, and what a challenge. Go ahead.
You've obviously studied this and been involved in this. In layman's terms, what needs to be done?
I hate to say it, we need to put money into affordable housing. Right now, the numbers just don't work, and the only way to get more affordable housing is, I mean, the ADUs is a great option that doesn't have to cost us anything, but all the projects need subsidy. I'm working on 7 different development projects in Sedona right now, and the average subsidy that they're needing is about, I think it's $59,000 per unit. So about $2.5 million per project. And those are projects that are coming with other subsidies, like the low-income housing tax credit, although not the 9% credit. That's a really hard one to get, that the Verde Plaza has. But you know, they're all going to the state looking for every funding source, and the state manages most of the federal money coming down to this area. So a lot of challenges right now with the interest rates as high as they are, especially.
Right.
It seems that we're kind of taking a free market problem and trying to use politics or a government program to fix it. And that's, I don't know how good that turns out.
Right. That tends to be the definition. You know, government and nonprofits pick up where the free market fails. That's the reason that nonprofits were invented in the first place. So, yeah.
Any other questions from council? No. Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to just thank staff and Shannon especially for the amount of work that she's put into this. One of the things that really stood out to me was, especially some of these high-level options, you'll probably be seeing some recommendations in the future, especially as we put our budget together and we have, you know, our discussions on priorities and things like that in the near future for council. The other thing that I thought was extremely helpful was really seeing that continuum from like one end to the other completely, and identifying what is actually being done in each of those areas right now. And there's obvious areas of opportunity in there, and that's what I'm looking forward to, you know, Shannon and team continuing to look at how can we continue to make progress in all of these areas where we can.
Right. And one question I thought of is, what is the status of forming the nonprofit housing association or developer? Is that still moving forward?
It is still moving
Okay.
forward. We have some folks who are interested in being on the board,
Okay.
who are really pushing to get it going. I'm also talking to a couple of organizations that specialize in capacity building to help work with the initial board and help them understand sort of the challenges and the way that we address affordable housing.
Okay, that's good to hear. It's moving forward. So, just for the benefit of those who may not know, we did co-hire Shannon Boone with the city of Sedona, which I think has been a great partnership. Obviously, we wish we'd hired her a lot sooner, more than I think you've been on for a few years now, but
Almost 2 years.
almost 2. Okay, but you know, we're identifying the problems and working towards solutions. So, at least we're going in the right direction on that as well. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, that ends that presentation. So next up is call to the public. This portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for discussion. However, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action. And comments are limited to a 3-minute time period. So, as usual, I'll call up the first speaker and then queue up the next. If you could, when you're called up, just introduce yourself, let us know your city of residence, and you've got 3 minutes. So first up is Sharon Bonney, and next will be Dr. Sina.
Good evening. I'm Sharon Bonney. I live in Yavapai County, just a few feet on the wrong side of Fur. I have 4 questions for our elected representatives. At the meeting October 3rd, why was executive session called to discuss the qualifications for the council candidates? Why couldn't the public hear your discussion about the candidates? 2, what was the rationale behind the 3 council members voting no for Matthews, a very qualified candidate? Why was this discussion in secret? 3, is it true that the mayor is actively trying to keep the seat empty into the next election? If so, how is that in the public interest? 4, will the council define family-friendly in relation to events in public spaces? Children have rights. They have the right to a period of innocence. Not defining family-friendly and having no criteria as to what can be presented to children takes away their rights. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Dr. Sina, you're up next. You'll be followed by Rachel Collins.
Speaking of environmental stewardship, this is about the Cottonwood slag pile contamination. My name is Dr. Sina. I'm a concerned physician who practices in the Verde Valley for the last 20 years as a primary care provider with a specialty in environmental medicine. 2 weeks ago, I reviewed the content in the contaminated slag dust, iron silica that can damage lungs just by its sharp nature, aluminum, arsenic, lead, copper, in that order. I also reviewed the statistics on death by county. Yavapai has the 2nd highest cancers amongst women, 2nd highest in prostate cancer amongst men, highest death in men by county on Alzheimer's disease. We as a community need to ask, why are we so high in cancer and neurocognitive disease? Could it be environmental? Today I speak out again, respectfully. Please put mineral research on an open hearing about toxic metal contamination. I request that this special hearing discuss the ramification of toxic dispersion, testing, and the responsibility of remediation. Also, there should be transparency amongst our community. When mining in Jerome was tapped out in 1937, UVX skedaddled, leaving us 3 million tons of toxic waste in the middle of town. There was no EPA to direct cleanup. 1960, Cottonwood officially was born as a city. We built our town around a toxic slag pile, now located by the fairgrounds, Sedona Senior Center, park, library, VFW, businesses, and homes. This pile has laid undisturbed for nearly 100 years, most likely was solidified. It's no longer solidified because of MRI. When the proposal to reprocess occurred, MRI was supposed to have phase 2 environmental studies. None have been done. In the future, testing should include an independent environmental specialist of the community's choosing and ADEQ. Funds that were paid to the city of Cottonwood should be designated for independent testing and then possible remediation. Please contact me for names and costs on testing for specialists. I'm happy to help in any way. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Sina. Next is Rachel Collins, and you'll be followed by Michael Nacito.
My name is Rachel Collins. I'm a management consultant, trained investigator, and reporter. In March of 2022, while living in Sedona, I rented an office in Cottonwood, and because of that, lost everything in my life. The city ADEQ and MRI ignored and denied my complaints and evidence of the black slag particulate blanketing everything in my office. They lied and lied and lied about their knowledge of it, just as when City Hall claimed to a Verde independent reporter a month ago that no one had ever made formal complaints about problems from the slag pile before. That is quite simply fraud. I have some of those very real complaints made since 2017 right there in folders. And the city manager never responded to an email I sent immediately after that statement in the paper asking for definition of what the formal complaint process is. So I spoke with other people in the city and verified I had done it by the formal process, as did many other people. As a result of being deceived and blown off, I had no choice but to investigate what was making me sick. 2,800 hours of investigation later, unpaid, having lost all of my personal property, finances, my health, and now living with $10,000 of debt, I have all of the evidence needed to prove what has happened to me and other victims in Cottonwood. After doing the investigation by myself for over a year, 2 women who offered to help me in June under a clear confidentiality agreement instead betrayed me in the worst way, stole the results of my private investigation, claimed it was their investigation, and made everything they knew public. They lied in this very room and told council and city officials they had an environmental consultant and report of evidence of the slag toxicity, when in fact they had none and have never produced any to date. One received a payment agreement from the city and has been controlling the narrative of their sudden slag pile investigation, reported in depth in 4 different front-page Verde independent articles, making the focus on ADEQ and shielding city officials from the criminality of their actions, past and present. This is so strange considering that for an entire year, the CEO of the Verde Independent refused to even consider investigating or publishing the irrefutable evidence I produced that I and our community was being contaminated and irreparably damaged. She still refuses to interview me knowing I have the evidence of the truth of who has made the residents of Cottonwood collateral damage to their vested interest. She even said to me recently when I dropped by the office unexpectedly, "Of course they're in it for the money. They never thought someone would come along like you and figure it out." Mr. Douglas, you told me several times after becoming Cottonwood City Manager that you would meet with me about this issue and never have. You could have been our hometown hero, gravely concerned about the destruction of our lives and taking every opportunity to talk to victims, but instead you folded right into the existing status quo that we are trapped in here and have been for years. There's nothing more important happening in this city now or in the past 7 years than citizens who are sick and struggling from health-destroying contamination.
Ms. Collins, I'm sorry, but your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nacito, you're up next. Mr. Nacito, are you out there? He's not. Okay. Okay, we'll close the floor to the public then and move on to the consent agenda. And
There was one other person that was on the roll.
I received 4 forms here. I don't have another. Is there somebody else that would like to speak? No? Okay. Whoever else wants to speak will just need to fill out a form, and you're more than welcome. You have 3 minutes. Please come up and introduce yourself and state your city of residence. And then when you're done, just fill out a form and hand it over to our manager, please.
My name is Michaela, and I reside in Cottonwood, Arizona. I'd like to talk about my brother Mark Small, who died 9 days short of his 60th birthday on July 11, 2021. He helped build and open what we call the slag pile in Cottonwood, Arizona around 2014. He worked for Minerals Research Incorporated for approximately 7 years. He was very dedicated, hardworking man for this company. In fact, he even got his son a job there and worked for almost 6 years before God did step in, created a malfunction with some mechanical equipment, and he lost his job. That was my nephew that lost the job. He was saved for the terminal illness of his life, but he did suffer health problems along the way. What did my brother Mark receive in returns from Minerals Research? Yes, they gave out life insurance plans, but did they really think they would be used so soon? In the 7 years he worked there, he experienced bronchitis quite often. He had several sinus infections and surgeries to clear his sinuses. He had many headaches, and went to the doctor often. He had more than one heart attack. He dealt with lots of allergies, and the last time he went to the hospital, he was advised he had pneumonia. They sent him home. He got worse. He went back to the hospital, and he was told, "You still have pneumonia, go home." He went home and he died. No mother or father should have to witness the effects that come to those who have given their time to MRI, let alone have to lose them altogether. My brother Mark is not the only victim of MRI. There are many, many, many people whose lives and property have been destroyed over the years and have a blind eye towards them. The dust that gets blown around and is in our homes and our land, we are losing the value of our property. We are losing our loved ones. I myself have lived here for a little over 2 years and have been in the affected area and have had bronchitis and major sinus infections already within the last year. So please tell me and others what we really want to know. How many more people in their land must be affected before we realize how big of a problem this is? Do you all realize how big of an area this has impacted? And I am closing with this statement. Wake up and smell the coffee, please. This has to stop before it takes the whole town of Cottonwood and we become a ghost town. Please help us to help others.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Are there any other forms out there that I've missed? No. Okay. Okay, I will then close the floor to the public, and we'll move on to the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council, will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda. So just one item this evening. It's resolution number 3211, authorizing a cooperative use purchasing agreement for the purchase of a skip loader with Empire Southwest LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, in an amount not to exceed $113,118. Is there a member of the public or council that'd like to have this item pulled? Okay, I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion. Councilmember Karat seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, let's ask our clerk then to read resolution number 3211 by title only.
Okay. Resolution number 3211, authorizing a cooperative use purchasing agreement for the purchase of a skip loader with Empire Southwest LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, in an amount not to exceed $113,118.
Okay, thank you. All right, next is new business. The following items are for council discussion, consideration, and possible legal action. First up is resolution number 3206, authorizing the city manager to execute a service agreement with Cottonwood Chamber of Commerce, an Arizona nonprofit corporation, for fiscal year 24 in an amount not to exceed $95,000.
different color. Oh, this is my little thing. Oh, it's inverted. Okay. Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. I am Tricia Lewis, Tourism, Economic Development, and PIO for the city of Cottonwood. And I just wanted to put a little fun and a little bit of humor, I guess, in something that I feel is a celebration before we go into the nuts and bolts of the contract and all the logistics, because I'm very proud of the work that the Chamber has been doing over the last 3.5 years since I've been here. As you know, when we first started, this was a challenge and a little bit of I don't want to say tumultuous, but maybe it was. And a lot of new things were happening. I was new here. There was a new sheriff in town. Not that I was a sheriff, but I had a new title. And it was taken over. The city was going to handle the destination marketing organization and a couple other things. And it really left the chamber as just kind of, okay, what are we doing? What's the new relationship look like? You're new. I've been here a long time, as the chamber would say, so what are we doing? And I'm just really proud, and I think we just need to take a minute to celebrate the successes. I hope that you all have seen how active they've been in the community and how much the community relies on the chamber. So I thought I'd make it a little lighthearted and a little fun for our presentation tonight. You know, as I said, I've been here over 3.5 years, and I just continue to be impressed with the work that they're doing. As I said, the partnerships matter, and I found this quote to be very appropriate. Success is best when it's shared. And everyone is moving forward together, then success takes care of itself. And I mean, over the course of the last 3 years, we've really seen new developments. We've seen memberships increase. And I'm going to ask Christian to come up in a minute just to maybe just reiterate what I'm saying. But as you know, success comes in all sizes, and big and small. Tonight we're talking about the chamber and the request for their contract renewal. It's important to recognize and embrace the partnership between the city and the chamber. As you know, the chamber is a member-focused organization and great community partner that fosters a sustainable, healthy, and vibrant economy. They also help businesses with promotion, advocacy, education, and services. And I will tell you that we are working right alongside them, and it's just so cool. The chamber, as you know, is asking for a contract renewal. Initially, they asked for a significant amount, but we've been negotiating and talking about realistic priorities and things that the city would be able to engage. And they're asking for an additional $15,000 for their annual contribution. It is in your packet with all the details. But I just want to, as I said, take the minute to be successful, look at the successes and just kind of, I guess, have fun with it. So that's what I'm doing with my presentation. So what's the benefit? I put this up there because they really are, as you've seen, as you go to chamber mixers, you go to ribbon cuttings, there's all these events that they have. I mean, their calendar is booked. They're really the heartbeat of the community, and I feel like the city's been right along with them, so it's fun. They operate 2 visitor centers with active chamber ambassadors who love this community. They engage business community and enhance tourism with the experience. They increase memberships every month. They're a vibrant hub that brings the business community together. And I will say that I have seen that again and again. So they continually see their memberships increase monthly. They have ribbon cuttings, business celebrations. And I will say that I've been here long enough to know what businesses want to be involved and what don't. And I have literally seen those that don't really participate very significantly have come to the chamber asking for their participation and to be a part of the chamber, which is really cool. Not just within Cottonwood, but around the Verde Valley, which kudos to them. And we also, the city staff, we meet with them every other week in my office to talk about collaboration with coordination of events, marketing, and other community-related events. So we usually try to support them as much as possible. We do a lunch and learn series. There's just been a lot of really great things happening with our partnership. So what they're suggesting or proposing, as you probably saw in your packet, is taking it to the next level. And yes, it's a dogs. I just thought it was fun. So one is building stronger relationships. Another is add and deliver additional programs that benefit the community. And one of their mission is cultivate an inclusive, collaborative business community. By doing that, they're going to bring back some events. They're going to add new programs and activities. So they're going to promote young professionals in the Verde Valley, possibly have a home and garden show, embrace the Spanish business community. And as each month, as their involvement grows, the community has recognized their value, hence memberships and business events continue to expand. And have you seen their monthly newsletter? It's pretty cool. So I just wanted to say that, and as I said, I would just request the approval of the $95,000 for a very well funded and very worthy cause or organization that I feel helps from an economic development standpoint at tourism and just really creates a vibrant community. So does anyone have any questions for me?
Any questions for Ms. Lewis?
No. Thank you.
Very good. I thought you would like the dogs.
No, that's cool. I like it. Yeah, this one especially. Thank you.
Yes. Christian? You...
I want to know how you got that picture of me on the first line.
I gave it to him. Yeah, right. Do you want to say anything?
Thank you.
Would you like to come up and just speak about some of the additional programs that you plan to do with the funding? That'd be great. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Really, just thank you to Trish. It's been an amazing ride. Our partnership and our friendship has grown significantly over the last 3 years. We're doing a lot of things together that are benefiting the business community, not just in Cottonwood, but the Verde Valley as a whole. It's been great that they're seeing our partnership, and we're actually, other municipalities are reaching out to us and going, how are you guys doing it, and what are you doing? And it's open communication, it's trust, it's a partnership, and it's been great. Like she said, you know, just our regular meetings every other week in her office, knowing what's going on at the city, knowing what's going on at the chamber, and how do we make this work. And we've been giving it an honest effort, and I'm happy to say we've had a pretty significant year last year, and we're looking forward to growing even bigger and providing more services with the city. So,
great.
Thank you.
Yeah, the graph has definitely gone up. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gone way up. And even, just so everybody knows, even other cities or communities are asking for the chamber's help. So it's well known. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Bolivar del Rio? No? Okay. All right, Council, how would you like to proceed? Any discussion or?
No.
Would you like to entertain a motion?
I'll move to approve resolution number 3206, authorizing the city manager to, wait a minute.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. To execute a service agreement with Cottonwood Chamber of Commerce, an Arizona nonprofit corporation for fiscal year 2024 in an amount not to exceed $95,000.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember DeWillis made the motion. Councilmember Karat seconded that motion. Let's get a roll call vote, please.
Resolution number 3206.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, roll call vote.
Oh. It was a long night last night.
Yes.
Councilmember DeWillis?
Yes.
Councilmember Karat?
Yes.
Councilmember Palasari?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Wilden?
Absolutely, yes.
And Mayor Alinsky?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Okay, great. Please read resolution number 3206 by title only.
Resolution number 3206, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, authorizing the city manager to execute a service agreement with Cottonwood Chamber of Commerce, an Arizona nonprofit corporation for fiscal year 2024 in an amount not to exceed $130,000.
Wait, 90.
Oh, the resolution's wrong then. But in the resolution. 95,000.
Okay. You almost got.
Yeah, he's like, wow, it went up. Want me to reread that?
No, I as long as the attorneys, we're good.
I'll make sure it's right.
Okay, we're good.
It goes to you.
Great, thank you. Thank you. All right, moving on is ordinance number 738, adopting revisions to the city's employee manual. This is the first reading. Evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Amanda Wilbur, HR Director. I do not have any dogs in my PowerPoint. I'm sorry. Tonight, I am here to discuss some employee manual updates that we have for you. A little bit of background. The last time we did updates to our employee manual was in 2021, so it's been 2 years. The section that we are updating tonight actually was updated as part of this last update in 2021. As council knows, the city entered into a conciliation agreement in May, and part of that agreement had some changes that we were required to make to our manual. So this would satisfy those requirements in that agreement. So our changes are actually pretty few. I've outlined all the basic changes we've had. So in this first section here, where it talks about equal employment opportunities, we've had to add genetic testing as a protected category. So that is a very minor change to our policy. The same goes into our anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policy. We've also added genetic testing as a protected category in that section as well. We've moved the placement of our anti-retaliation policy from section 11 to section 6. And then that also included some updated language, including how to make reports and how employees can access our integrity line, which is new. Finally, in the last section here, reporting harassment, discrimination, and retaliation, we've updated the requirement that all employees are required to report any signs of discrimination, harassment, or retaliation, instead of leaving that to only supervisors and managers. So all of our employees are responsible for looking out for one another. And then in this section as well, we have some clarified information about how to really make a report. So like I mentioned, the changes are pretty minimal actually, but the updates here does satisfy the requirement that we had in the first place. So here's a basic timeline of where we are. So in May, we signed our conciliation agreement. In September, we finally got approval on the recommended changes that we submitted back to the Attorney General's office. And then, of course, tonight is the first reading since we had that approval. So it's the first reading of Ordinance 738. Next meeting would be the second and final reading, and then new revisions take effect 30 days after the approval. So that would be pushed out to all of our employees, and we would be operating under this new minimally revised section.
Okay.
So with that, I'm happy to address any questions that you might have. Yes.
Vice Mayor?
Can you go back to the first page?
Yes.
Or the next one, sorry.
This one.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, but what is had the genetic testing as a protected category? What does that mean?
So we don't really do that here at the City of Cottonwood, but my understanding is occasionally there will be some sort of testing that could go along with like new hire, like physicals, or I don't even have a super great way of answering because we don't really do anything that affects, but sometimes you could get information back on like your genetic predisposition to certain diseases, right, and you are not allowed to use that as a reason to not hire someone. So if you found out that, you know, this person has a gene where they might be more susceptible to cancer, we can't use that information as a reason to not hire them.
Got it.
We don't do any sort of testing where we don't do gene testing here, so we wouldn't do that, but you're not allowed to do that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, well, this is just the first reading, so we'll bring it back for a vote by the council. And I believe we'll have our clerk. Yeah, go ahead.
Is the second read going to be exactly the same thing?
Yes, so normally when we do second reads, unless I have any other feedback from anyone that needs to be presented to you, I would let you know that we didn't hear anything, and it would be the same to move forward without a presentation. But if you'd like to see that, I can.
Government grinding slow.
Waiting 2 months to put this thing through.
I know, that's just the way, ordinances work.
Yep. All right, so let's have our clerk read ordinance number 738, please, by title only.
Ordinance number 738, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, adopting by reference the document entitled City of Cottonwood Employee Manual 207 edition, revision number 3.
Okay, great. Next is the monthly financial report. It was included in our packet. Do we have any questions for Ms. Lennon, who's stuck around all evening just to answer our questions? No questions. Okay. I move we pay the claims and adjustments.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Vice Mayor seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mayor made the motion, DeWillis seconded it. All in favor?